So what do you say? What do you say to someone who is just like, well, okay, we're gonna split this up. We'll split the question into two parts.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone who's just like, oh, how do you know Islam's been the same since 1400 years ago?
Well, there hasn't been a change in documentation of like the Quran, for example.
What if someone says, how do you know?
You go back to what's the oldest Quran to date that exists? Was like, I think the oldest Quran to date is about 1,000 years old. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I believe so. And it still exists. You can go look it up, right?
Uh-huh.
And then also
you've been to Turkey multiple times.
Yeah,
it's probably there, huh?
Yeah, there's like museums and stuff. And then like also in terms of like hadith, for example, which is sayings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you look at the chain of revelation that it was received by, right?
Yeah.
Like, so he said, this person said, and like you can go and fact check it yourself.
Right.
So,
and also the answer is oral tradition. Same thing. The chain of narration of the people who memorize the Quran. Any person who memorizes the Quran cover to cover, they learn it from a teacher who learned it from a teacher who learned it from a teacher. And it keeps going up until it leads back to the Prophet ﷺ. So, great answer. The other part of that question is, what do you say to the people who say, the times are changing, why isn't Islam changing?
I love that. So, if something were to be God-given, I'm not even talking about Islam. So let's just assume like we all believe that this thing was revealed by God himself. Mm-hmm. Can you argue that God isn't perfect?
Oh, no way.
Right. So then won't you think that God's revelation will transcend till the end of time? Because
100%.
He sees the future, He knows the past, He knows the present. Mm-hmm. Actually, remember when we sat down with the Mufti or also the Sheikh, and he talked about, actually it was Sheikh Tariq. Remember Sheikh Tariq when he talked about how like from God's perspective, it's like it's like a flat thing that's like laid out in front of him.
Time is just laid out, and he can pick any point.
Yeah, and he said something. He said in that scenario. Excuse me, guys, my neck is killing me. So, but anyway, he talked about how like in that scenario, like if God says something, He only has to say it once, and it'll be delivered to everybody from the beginning of time all the way to the end of time.
SubhanAllah.
Right?
It's pretty epic, yeah.
So like that same concept could be argued about like, why hasn't it changed? Well, there is no reason for it to change because it was sent down upon us in a way where it's meant to be the same for the rest of eternity.
I think it's also safe to say that, like, dude, a lot of the changes that would affect, original, like, ideas within belief, a lot of those, modern changes or things that people are adopting in modern era, a lot of it is 100% based off of, like, a desire.
Yeah, desires. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And like the liberalism
it's based off of some twisted fantasy, right? Where you want to justify being a degenerate, right? And so you somehow need to eliminate the element of what? Responsibility, aka eliminating the element of God, because God is the one who holds you accountable at the end of your life, right? So if you remove the accountable, you remove the element of responsibility, and so thus you have free will to be a degenerate.
Do whatever you want.
Right?
I would actually argue against that question and say, if the religion does change based off of human desires and needs, is it really the true religion?
Right. I have an interesting theory. Not a theory. But how do you look at, like, it's Judaism first, right? And then Christianity, and then Islam. Uh-huh. Overall, it's like one comes to correct the other. How do you overall look at it?
What do you mean?
Like, is there a way your mind kind of like puts it all together? Because the way I look at it is like, it's like Christianity came to, correct and fix the issues within Judaism. Not necessarily the issues, but it came to improve on it, right? And then Islam came and finalized, the two previous Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
And this is the most updated software iOS update of religions that people should, be attuned to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Is that
So
kind of
what's
how
your
you
question?
look at it?
I mean, like,
Do you have a similar setup in your mind?
I mean, I like, so the way I view that is God created us. He knows how we function, and he knows all the arguments that we're going to probably come up with. And because God is so merciful and loving, he likes to work with us instead of just order us to do whatever he wants us to do. So by revealing 3 different religions, he gave us a shot to make things work on our own, even though he knew it wasn't going to happen, just so that the day comes where I can't argue and say, oh, you never trusted me to begin with. He says, yeah, we did. We brought you down Judaism. We brought you down Christianity. We trusted you, but you screwed it up. So now his name came to perfect it all. That's how I see it.
I see.
I see it as a way because he knows our human tendencies. And he understands. Dude, I'm like literally glitching.
The way you elbowed that pillow was rough.
bro. Like my neck.
But
God.
continue.
He understands our human tendencies, right?
Yeah.
And so he wants to work with us so that we're able to comprehend everything from A to Z. And a human is created in a way is argumentative by nature, right? And so these 3 religions came down so that we have no argument against it. That's kind of how I view it.
I see.
Even though he already knew, because think about it, because God could have just made one religion. It's like, this is it.
Right.
Like, there's no reason for him to like bring out hundreds of prophets. Like we're taught about like what? How many prophets? Like just a handful, and there's like hundreds that we don't even know of.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so like you ask the question, like, why does that even exist? Well, it's because he wants us to learn over time that we can't rely on ourselves except by relying on him. You know.